Hi, I'm Jack for CineFix, although I don't even know if I need to say that. That sounds too official. For CineFix. So part of what I want to talk about today is about how movies are going down. I mean, everybody's been talking about how movies are getting worse and worse, and everybody looks at the 70s as the last golden period. If you've ever read Easy Rider's Raging Bulls, you know what I'm talking about, that before things were better. Now things aren't so good, and little by little, Hollywood has sort of systematically lowered our standards. Why is it when you go to see something so highly anticipated like Pacific Rim, and I'm sure some of you liked it, but why is it when you see the amount of spectacle, and spectacle is the key word here, why is it when you see that much spectacle is your reaction, oh yeah, that's cool? I mean, that's not what it should be. When I was a little kid, and I'm aging myself here, and I saw Star Wars, the original Star Wars, 1977 at the Chinese theater, and that Star Destroyer went over, I mean, the air got sucked out of your lungs. I mean, that's not the point of the whole movie. I mean, the reason the whole movie works is because it had a certain level of effects that no one had seen before, coupled with the fact that you actually cared about the people in the movie. And that's really, that second part about caring is really, I think, the key to what's missing in most movies today. I mean, the trick in getting audiences invested in a movie, in my opinion, is that you relate to who's in the movie and you see yourself in that. Let me give you an example. I saw World War Z. I don't know how many of you saw it, probably a lot of you. I actually liked World War Z. I had no expectations. I thought the CGI was going to be incredible and you'd have 80 gajillion zombies and that it would be believable, but I didn't think that was going to be the thing that was going to get me excited about it. What turns out to work, in my opinion, about World War Z, why it works, is because simply it's Brad Pitt trying to save his family. This is the thing that a lot of studio executives don't understand, is that it's not the effect, and it's not about topping yourself with the effect. It's about, who do I care about that this effect is happening to? This really shouldn't be new information, and I do not pretend to be preaching this like this is how you're gonna, but it's like the fundamental thing about caring about somebody in a movie. Like, let me put it to you this way, like Saving Private Ryan. Everybody acknowledges that the Normandy beach landing is like a tour de force of filmmaking, right? I mean, I've talked to combat vets, I have friends who are combat vets who say, yeah man, that's what the shit's like, it's like that. It's like that bad. You know, the carnage, you had never seen that before. People's heads and arms and legs blowing off. Now the movie starts with that. The movie starts with, yeah, I mean, it starts with the cemetery and starts with Tom Hanks with a shaking hand, but essentially the movie starts with this huge destruction sequence, right? People, humanity being destroyed on this beach in France. Now imagine if that scene had come 20 minutes later. Imagine if you took 20 minutes to get to know the guys in the platoon that are on the landing craft that land on the beach. Imagine how much more terrifying, how much more invested you would be because you know these people. And so it's the old logic, which is, if you get to know somebody and then you kill them, you feel worse. That's really, I mean, if you had to break Hollywood down to a science, and they're always trying to do that, come up with formulas, figure it out. If you just drop buildings on people and it's just CGI people, or it's just somebody you saw 2 seconds ago going, ah, and a building falls on them, that's not going to be as dramatic if you get to know somebody and then the building falls on them. Anyway, the reason why I'm talking about this is right now I'm filming a show for this channel that's technically top secret, but basically it's a monster comedy show. And here's a quick look at the monster. That's it. You're not going to see any more because I can't reveal what's it's kind of cool. But it's like, we're going to use a lot of practical special effects. I mean, I come from a practical, non-CGI background, so it's giant monster, practical thing, comedy thing. The reason I'm thinking about all this character versus spectacle thing is because this thing I'm working on actually has both of those things. And what I'm trying to do is, even though this is a big goofy monster thing, I'm trying to put as much character in it so that, well, frankly, so that I don't have to compete with World War Z or Pacific Rim. I mean, in other words, it's like, you know, if you have people in the show that you like, then I think you enjoy it more, and the whole thing doesn't hinge on whether the effect is the most spectacular thing in the world. And yes, they're going to get chased by a giant monster, and that's going to be cool, but hopefully the fact that you kind of like these people makes that chase stuff more impressive. Let's take 2 films, well, that's 4. Let's take 2 films from the same filmmaker, Steven Spielberg. Jaws and Jurassic Park. Now I know a lot of you saw Jurassic Park when you were young, and that probably has a special place in your heart because you saw this amazing dinosaur stuff when you were young, and it resonated, and that's important. Resonance is really important. Let me compare it to Jaws. Jaws, made by the same filmmaker, Steven Spielberg, in 1975. Totally fake shark, and everybody knows this. Bruce the shark, totally fake, never worked. When it finally gets up on the thing and eats Quint at the end, it's this I mean, the thing at Universal Studios is probably more realistic on the ride than the shot itself. But here's the thing. You've got a fake shark, but absolutely real characters in that movie. Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, Richard Dreyfuss, and a host of others. Murray Hamilton, all these people, totally believable, three-dimensional characters that you can identify with. If you don't identify with Robert Shaw, most of us don't, you certainly identify with Richard Dreyfuss. He seems like a real, authentic nerd.
I think that I am familiar with the fact that you are going to ignore this particular problem until it swims up and bites you on the ass.
And Roy Scheider, you totally identify with. Here's just a normal guy, and this is classic vintage Spielberg. He's just basically a middle-class guy, you know, with a family who's just trying to balance everything, job with his kids, and he's just a good guy, and he's put in this incredible situation. Now you've got Jurassic Park with completely photorealistic dinosaurs. Best dinosaurs anybody ever seen. Everyone's waiting their whole life to see these photorealistic dinosaurs. And you've got Sam Neill, Laura Dern, and Jeff Goldblum doing a shtick.
And then I go too fast. I go too fast. I did a flyby. No, give me that big glass of water. We're going to conduct an experiment. It should be still. The car's bouncing up and down, but that's okay. It's just an example.
And they're fine, but they're certainly not as well-rounded. They're certainly not as dimensional as the characters in Jaws. What's better? I guess it depends on personal taste, but you know, for my money, Jaws is the movie that sticks with me. Jaws is the movie that has the moments. Forget about the shark sequences. There's plenty of moments in Jaws, and I did a Hollywood Trenches episode with Joe Carnahan where he pointed this out. You know, he said, you know, what do you remember about Jaws? Carnahan said, I remember the moment where Roy Scheider's sitting with his little kid, and he says, you know, give me a kiss. And the kid goes, why? You know, and Scheider says, because I need it. And it's like this moment that has nothing to do with anything except showing that these are real people in this extraordinary circumstance. Jurassic Park, you've got extraordinary everywhere, but who the f are the people? Like, who are these people? And going back to Saving Private Ryan, you know, the reason why the Normandy Beach landing works besides the spectacle is because it's Tom Hanks. But there's no work being, it's just Tom Hanks. It's like, oh, there's Tom Hanks, I like Tom Hanks. You haven't really earned it. You haven't really, from a story standpoint, you haven't really earned it. Which brings us to the movie that I want to talk about today, which is this, Uncommon Valor. Made in 1983. I have the VHS here. It's still, you know, it's still pretty good condition. You know, I've seen so many movies and I have so many favorite movies. This movie, most people wouldn't put on a favorite movie list. The reason why I want to talk about Uncommon Valor, which was directed by Ted Kotcheff, who also directed the first Rambo movie, First Blood, is because it's essentially a men on a mission movie, a la The Dirty Dozen.
Just bought a whole can of whoop ass.
There are a lot of interesting things about Uncommon Valor. Basically, it's the first of the let's go get our POWs left behind in Vietnam movies. And remember, the Vietnam War ended in 1973, so a lot of these movies came out in the early 80s. Uncommon Valor came out in 1983, so it's only been 10 years. Even today, every once in a while, you'll see flags with the silhouette of a prisoner that say POW or MIA. This was a huge thing in the 80s because it was true. There were a lot of guys, a lot of American soldiers that were missing in action, and there was evidence that they were being held in camps in Vietnam. And the North Vietnamese were not giving them back. So there was this real kind of ache. Not only were people seriously upset that they had lost, America had effectively lost their first war, but also that there were these guys over there that were suffering in prison camps, and politically there was nothing that could be done. Negotiations were being done, the years were going by, and they couldn't get these guys out. So here's America. America loves to make war movies, and yet we've come out of Vietnam, which is not popular. It took a long time for anybody to make a movie about Vietnam. I mean, The Deer Hunter sort of broke that. With Uncommon Valor, they decided, let's make an old war movie, but make it about a bunch of guys coming together and rescuing POWs in Vietnam. The reason why Uncommon Valor works, and this is going back to what I was saying before about character versus spectacle, is that you care so deeply about the people involved. In Uncommon Valor, you've got Gene Hackman, and this is what's interesting. You've got Gene Hackman playing the father of a guy missing in action. And Gene Hackman is destroyed by the fact that he cannot rescue his son. Hackman plays a lifelong military guy himself, a colonel who's retired, and his son went to Vietnam, didn't come back. And so the whole movie is about him trying to organize a bunch of guys to go back and rescue his son along with a lot of other POWs. And what he does is he goes and he recruits all the guys from his son's platoon who did make it out, appeals to them and says, look, you guys are our only hope of going and rescuing these people because politically they can't get any mission approved. There are moments in the movie that are pure melodrama, but I'll take melodrama over no drama, which is essentially what we're getting in most Hollywood movies today. There's a scene in the beginning of the movie that sets up the pain that Hackman feels. He has a dream. He's lying in bed and he has a dream that his young son, his son when he was 8 or 9, comes into his room to ask if he can sleep in his parents' bed because he's scared. And it's this moment where Hackman is reaching out for his son, and his son's little hand goes in his, and then it dissolves away, and he's not there, and he clenches his fist in rage. You know, it's pure melodrama, but you cut to Hackman, who's such a great actor, and he's got tears in his eyes, and you realize that this man will not be a full human being unless he accomplishes this. So the movie follows all the tropes of men on a mission movies, the recruitment, the training, and then the mission itself. But again, the reason why it's so effective is that these people care. These people care about what they're doing in the movie. They love this guy they're going after. They love each other, so that we spend most of the movie getting to know these people. So in the end, of course, it's a big bloodbath. They go in there and it's 5 guys against 1 million guys, and people are getting killed left and right. But the people that are getting killed are the people that you've gotten to know for an hour and 20 minutes. These guys are sacrificing themselves in this mission. This is different from getting killed on the mission. These are people who are sacrificing themselves for others. And again, that's melodrama, but it works. This is pure, what they used to call hokum. You know, it's like, it's designed to pull the strings, but it's so effective. And I miss that in movies. I mean, obviously, I would prefer real drama, authentic, real human emotion than pure melodrama. But I'll take pure melodrama in the absence of any. So here we are, 2013. What have you seen that has hit you in any way? I would wager that the big CGI spectacle stuff is not the stuff that's sticking in your head. That's the thing, memorable. What are you going to remember?